Thank you. Hi, my name's Ronda Sturgill, and I'm an associate professor at the University of Tampa, just about 70 miles down the road from here. So I didn't travel a long way, as many of you did. And I teach in it's the College of Natural and Health Sciences, but it's the Department of Health Sciences and Human Performance. So we call that HSHP for obvious reasons. And I'm coming today to talk to you about developing and implementing a hybrid education program. So I had the opportunity in 2012, 2013 to get in on the initial development of a program and then become the program director, and has continued in that role since the program started in 2014. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about challenges we faced, things that we've learned, and kind of recommendations based on our experience. We've made mistakes, but we've learned from that. And as you all know, implementation of any type of program, whether it's undergraduate, graduate, face-to-face, hybrid, online, blended, is timely. But when you add the component that it's not completely face-to-face all the time, and it's hybrid, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes, this adds a whole nother layer of complexity. So it's important to consider both short-term and long-term considerations during the implementation. So today's talk, I'll look at short-term, long-term considerations, challenges, lessons that we have learned, and then future recommendations for development and implementing a hybrid program. So a little bit about the program and a little bit about the University of Tampa. It's a mid-sized liberal arts university. And up until the point of 2013, we had not branched over into the online hybrid education component. I think there was a lot of hesitation to do that, and I know some schools have been doing it for years. At my former institution, I had taught online classes. They had a really large online program. So at this particular institution, they had not done that. So for many people, it was quite a learning experience and still is. They started with just a handful of undergraduate courses as hybrid, and those have been operating now for probably 7-8 years. And those were only offered, and still we only offer undergraduate hybrid courses in the summer and intersessions. We do not offer them in the fall and the spring. However, I see that this probably will change with time. We're getting ready to start a doctorate of nurse practitioner program, which will be completely online. So that's part of the challenge that we're facing on how to review, et cetera, that I'm going to talk about today. So this particular program that I'm going to talk about is the Master of Science in Exercise and Nutrition Science. And it has a couple of unique factors to it. One of them is that it has 3 entry points. Students can start either in the fall semester, in the spring semester, or in the first summer term. So at any point during the year, we have students graduating and entering the program, which creates a little bit of a challenge with scheduling, but so far we've been able to make it work. So as I mentioned, it was developed during the 2012-2013 academic year. We were told by the administration if we wanted to develop this program, that was fine, but we would have no new resources in terms of faculty. So, yeah, that fortunately is not continuing to happen because it presented quite a few challenges. It combines the study of exercise and sports nutrition, which is unique if you look across the country. And out of the 12 courses, 9 of the courses are delivered via a hybrid delivery. And what we have adopted at the University of Tampa is the definition for hybrid to be up to 50% online, 50% or more face-to-face. So we looked at definitions of blended, online, et cetera, and that's the definition we have adopted and we use. So the other 3 courses that are not hybrid, one of them is a comprehensive exam that they actually have 1 credit as a course. There's one of their courses that is a laboratory techniques course that is completely face-to-face. It's a 2 credit hour intersession course. And then the other course is a 3 credit hour practicum, and that's completely hands-on. Most students complete that locally, but some do go outside of the kind of local regional area to complete their practicum. But the rest are delivered in a hybrid format. And one more piece of information before I get into kind of the development and implementation is that all students are taking the same classes at the same time. You know, at some point, if we get to the numbers that we have to offer more sections, then we may need to look at that schedule. So if a student starts in the fall semester, they come to class on Tuesday night. They take 3 classes. They take a class from 5 to 6:15, 6:30 to 7:45, and 8 to 9:15. Now, there are 2 sections of each course running at that time, so at the end of the night, all students have taken all 3 courses, just maybe in a different order. So right now, the program lends itself really nicely to students who work because they can plan. Now, the intersession courses are a little different. They may be like a 3-day intensive course, and actually my breakout session this afternoon, I'm going to talk about a specific course that I teach in the program in that format. So they know when they come in the fall, in 1 calendar year, they're completely finished with the program. So it's quick, and again, it's most of our students, if they don't work full-time, they work at least part-time while they're going through the program. So some considerations I'm going to talk about. One of them is faculty, communication, and then resource availability. And you'll see that there are similarities in the long-term considerations as there are at the short-term. So a little bit about faculty. Time commitment. It's a huge time commitment for development of a program anyway, but when it's in addition to your already existing expected scholarship, research activity, your teaching. And at the University of Tampa, we are primarily a teaching university. So our teaching load is 12 credit hours in the fall and 12 credit hours in the spring semester. Yeah, so we are now getting to the point where we have development of additional graduate programs, and I know at some universities a graduate load is considered to be 9 credit hours. So they don't differentiate between graduate and undergraduate courses there, and that's becoming a topic of discussion. We also only have an undergraduate curriculum committee. We do not have a graduate curriculum committee, so that's been a discussion. We have a graduate council, which I sit in on as a program director. But these discussions are coming up, especially as new programs evolve and are starting. So these are some challenges, like I said, we're facing. But that being said, and I have a couple of references throughout the presentation. Banerjee explains many faculty recognize the benefits of online and blended learning. However, the potential in integrating them into existing face-to-face courses can be perplexing. So a lot of people who have never taught online or hybrid, they think, oh, it would be easier. In many ways, it's not. It's a lot more time for those of you that have. And the development process is quite extensive as well. So the faculty, again, in this program, we're making a commitment. There was no additional pay except for when you developed, and it still is that way, when you develop a hybrid course, you do get a development stipend. Now they have changed that. The course has to be developed, approved, and offered before you get that development stipend. But as we all know, a stipend does not give us more time. So time becomes a factor. So development stipends were a nice incentive for faculty developing courses. And there were a lot of group training and one-on-one development meetings that provided to be useful. So we have an educational technology department with a staff of 2. And that's another challenge that we're trying to overcome and add more staff, instructional designers to assist with faculty. Because when faculty sign up to teach a hybrid, an online, a blended course, they expect support, right? They expect training, they expect resources. There also has to be support or buy-in from all parties involved. So that's the department, and in this case, we did have support and buy-in from the department, from the faculty members, from administrators, staff members. For our case, it included admissions. We are a tuition-driven university. Admissions is pretty high stress, right? And the previous institution I was at was a a public university. So it's a little bit different in terms of the funding and where that comes from. So if numbers are down, which right now across our graduate programs, our numbers are down a little bit, stress goes up for a lot of people because you're dependent on that tuition. So we communicated quite a bit, had meetings with the admissions department, the graduate office, and the office we have is called Graduate and Continuing Studies. And so that's our graduate and also all of our summer and intersession programs. We have, for years, had a May intersession, which is the 2 weeks immediately after the spring semester ends. It's become quite popular for students because they can take a class in 2 weeks, and then by mid-May, to end of May, they're finished, and they can take another class, work, etc. But then a couple of years ago, they started a winter intersession. So for us, that's the 2 weeks prior to the spring semester beginning. So in both of those sessions, we have classes for the ENS program. So this communication with these offices for us had to be constant, it had to be consistent, and there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of face-to-face meetings, a lot of committee meetings, et cetera, because we were kind of paving the pathway for this process. And it was very timely, but looking back over the last few years, I think it was, the implementation was done in a very logical way. And now it's kind of made a path for other graduate programs that when we get a proposal, okay, we want to develop cybersecurity as a hybrid program, just an example. There's already a path there for what to do. Resource availability. So this is training and resources for faculty and for students. So while we have many, but not a lot, but we have quite a few of our undergraduate students who go on into the graduate program. But we have just as many that are not alumni. So we use Blackboard as our delivery platform for the program. So training in terms of technology, IT help on weekends, in evenings, in hours when students might be working, but the campus is not open, and how do you provide that? For faculty, again, they have the content. How do I develop it online? Can somebody show me how to present it? So what we did with this particular program is we developed a common template for all the courses. So we asked that faculty use this similar template so that when a student goes in one course, it looks somewhat similar in terms of a start here button. So I know I go there to find my syllabus. I know that my content's going to be blocked into modules. So it kind of provides some standardization across those courses, and it's not every time a student's opening up a new course, where do I find this, what do? I need help. So for us that worked, and it seems to be going okay so far. So training is absolutely necessary for a faculty member as well as for students as they develop this program. Resource availability. So resources come in different forms. Let me go back one. Many faculty, this is just an example of a study in 2006, that many faculty expect to receive training and support at the institutional level to prepare them to teach online. So the expectation is there, and how do you provide it? So with a little bit of time and collecting information, we developed something called the New Teaching Institute, or the NTI. And that has evolved over the last 4 years. And what that is a 2 to 3 day intensive training workshop to develop a course. So when it was first developed, it was like 3 days in a row, and you were there from pretty much 9 to 3, 9 to 4 for 3 days. You came with content, and at the end of those 3 days, you had pretty much a good draft of a hybrid course. But what they found over time is they offer it, now it's down to 2 days, but it's one date, then there's a period of time in between for the faculty member to work, and then the second date. They also have recruited and have faculty who have volunteered to come, who have already developed courses, who are experienced, and act as mentors during this workshop, and that seems to be working pretty well. We initially used the Quality Matters program that faculty had to go through the Quality Matters, developing a blended course portion of it before they started the new Teaching Institute. We have since, and I actually like the Quality Matters information. I thought it was really helpful when I was developing hybrid courses. They have since instituted kind of their own type of information at UT in this new Teaching Institute. So that has really proven to be helpful, and that takes time. That takes resources because our educational technology individuals are considered staff. So for faculty, it was difficult for them to determine 2 days where that faculty could come. So faculty said, well, can we come on a Saturday? So then it was working out how did that work with their time, et cetera. So a little bit of challenge there, but now what they found is they usually offer it over the winter break. So they usually offer 1 day pretty soon after we finish this fall semester, and then the second day after New Year's, but before the spring semester begins. So it seems to work pretty well that it's not really in the middle there, but it's not in the middle of a semester. So long-term considerations, we developed the program, we started it in 2014, now we're almost 4 years into it. So kind of what have we learned after initial implementation, and kind of what do we recommend moving forward? Adaptability, be ready to adapt, maybe time, make adjustments from university faculty, enrolled students. There was a lot of individual and initial skepticism at the University of Tampa because we are traditionally a face-to-face school, face-to-face classes. As new programs have been proposed, new courses have been proposed, there's been increased support. I don't think we're still where we need to be in terms of resources, but even in the exercise and nutrition science program over the last 2 years, we've been able to get several new tenured track lines. We don't have faculty that are strictly graduate faculty per se, but I could see that that's where we're going in the future. So they may teach 2 graduate courses and 2 undergraduate courses. The new Teaching Institute, like I said, over time, we have adapted that's evolved, and it seems to be a pretty good process in place. Hybrid approval. So once we started implementing this program, developing it, we realized there needed to be some type of approval process for hybrid courses. So the Hybrid Course Review Committee was developed. It is a standing committee of the Faculty Senate. And there are 2 important positions with this committee, the chair of the committee, and then one called the Hybrid Course Review Coordinator. So for 3 years, I served in this course review coordinator role, and the chair of the committee was the same person for the first 3 years. So what this committee did was a course already had to be approved at the curriculum committee. This could not be a course that was not already approved. It had to be approved by curriculum. Then the course came to the hybrid course review committee. It was reviewed, or it is reviewed, based on a rubric that we've developed over time. And then it is approved for offering as a hybrid course. And that process seems to work now that people understand the process. The paperwork, the forms are all available on our Center for Teaching and Learning website. So if you're interested in what those look like, you can go to the University of Tampa website, Center for Teaching and Learning, and there's a hybrid teaching tab there, and those forms are available. It's a cover sheet and approval form that faculty have to fill out. And we had a long discussion many times about content approval. So if you sit on this committee, I'm in exercise nutrition science, but there may be a course in math coming up for approval. I'm not a content expert in math. So before it came to the committee, on this approval form also had to have the content approval of the department chair. So it had to go through them. And I served in a similar role at the institution I was at before, and that was what we did there, and it seems to be a good process. We had to keep and still enforce that the hybrid course review committee, we're not hybrid police, right? We are approving a course for a hybrid delivery format. We want a person to be successful. So if their course is submitted and they do not meet all the requirements, and they are given this rubric saying this is what you're going to be reviewed on, then it goes back to them with comments. They make changes, they send it back, right? The process should be successful, but it's been kind of a long time getting people to understand that. But there has to be some type of quality control. We also have instituted a 3-year review process, so once your original course is developed, 3 years later, it's reviewed again. That should be easy, right? When you get the email, your course is up for 3-year review, okay, here it is. You know, it should be that you're still following the rubric. Not saying that that happens all the time, right? So the idea is there, and so this hybrid course review committee has really been an important piece of the development and the implementation. I'm still on the committee, not in the coordinator role, but now what we are working on is we have online programs coming. So are they treated the same as hybrid? How do we maintain the quality, et cetera? And then we also have periodically had course demonstrations from hybrid faculty, and that has been run through our Center for Teaching and Learning. It's worked out really well where in an hour, 3 hybrid faculty come and they demo their courses 20 minutes each. And then there's, you know, some food and snacks and some discussion. And people really like that. They get ideas. As a reviewer, I'm still a reviewer, I see a lot of courses. So I thought, wow, that's a really good idea as I'm reviewing courses, right? But in terms of actually kind of putting the courses on exhibit, we do that periodically throughout the year. Continued communication, critical for success of the program. So maintaining communication with all involved departments across campus, for example, graduate advising, and we have a representative in the graduate admissions office that works with the program, but also an academic advisor in the Office of Graduate and Continuing Studies. So maintaining communication between those 2 individuals and making sure they are communicating between themselves is key. And it takes a lot of time and coordinating there. And again, graduate admissions, as well as administrative offices. In the last year, both the advisors, one in the admissions and one in the graduate college, were the 2 individuals left, so we've had new faces. And we have a new dean, who our former dean had been there for 8 years. So it's educating these individuals to how the program runs, what's happened, what's the history behind it as we move forward. Continued resource availability. So resources in the form of technology must be present to provide quality online content in the hybrid learning environments. How can you help someone determine the course contents that are best delivered online versus a face-to-face format? And like I said, instructional designers really helpful in that format. Other examples of resource availability: technology, I've mentioned, technology support, space. So the first semester we ran this program, we had 48, 50 students all in one section, a graduate class. It was not ideal. So then we split it into 2 sections. So now we run, if they're full, 2 sections of 26 students at a time of each course. And that seems to work better. But that first semester, nobody really kind of thought that through, and it was finding a space on campus for that many students. And you're trying to teach research methods to 50 graduate students and trying to get them to log on, use their SPSS. So it became quite a challenge. So space. Again, faculty resources, how many faculty do you have? Getting them trained up to speed to what the system is and the review process is takes time as well. And then for technology, lecture capture systems. So we used MediaSite for a while, and we're looking at other options now for media capture, so where faculty could go and capture a lecture and then provide it in a hybrid format online, and what works best, et cetera. So I'd love at the discussion if anybody has ideas too of how they do that at their university. That would be helpful. So lessons we have learned: the program development process is much longer than anticipated. I will tell you this too, as I mentioned, when we first started the program, we were told you can start the program, but you cannot have any more faculty. So we had to start with what we had. We had one faculty member who was really an expert in the area, but in the second year, he left to go to another place. So he taught 1/3 of the classes. So I said for about a year, we were in what I call crisis management mode, right? We were just staffing classes with adjunct. Now, we still use some adjuncts in the program who are specialists in their area, which I think is really a nice component. But we did not want a whole graduate program run only with adjunct professors. We wanted some full-time faculty there. So we got through that, and like I said, we've been able to hire a couple of new long-term individuals. This hybrid course review committee definitely provided credibility to the hybrid course offerings and still does. Now it's known across campus. You know, there's still questions, where do I go to get this? How does this work? But there's no question about what does that committee do, or who are they, or what, you know, I think over time we've become more credible. The training for new hybrid faculty is critical. That absolutely has to happen. It takes time, like I said, and it takes a little bit of resource. But it's definitely important. Feedback from students and faculty is really helpful for program direction and future change. So I'll talk a little bit more about this in the afternoon session, or the later afternoon session. But one of the classes, Professional Issues course, initially we offered in the spring semester. At the end, a lot of the feedback on the course evaluations was that might be a better fit for the intersession, a smaller session, shorter session, and that a nutritional and supplements and nutritional aid course would be better in the spring semester. So after that first year, we flip-flopped those two classes, and it has worked much better. So listening to your students, I always read the course evaluations. I think the narrative portion is actually really, really helpful in terms of projects, things that worked, and those that didn't work, especially if there's quite a few students that have similar comments. So looking at feedback from faculty too. We're considering, I don't know how this is going to work, but maybe eliminating one of the entry dates for the programs, maybe going to 2 or even 1. It becomes a tracking kind of nightmare with 3 entry dates. We encourage students to complete the program in 1 calendar year and take the full load every time. Where most of them have, we've had 2 or 3, maybe 4, who have taken, maybe they only took 2 classes in the fall. They have to wait a whole year for that class to be offered the next fall, right? But that's a little bit challenging too to track them, and they're taking a comprehensive exam based on the courses that they had, the professors that they had with those courses. So, you know, we're considering that in terms of the way that the program is laid out. So this is just kind of a final thought here. Again, this is from Banerjee Explains. The challenges for faculty of technology-mediated courses are finding the time, which we talked about, creating a balance between what the student expects, what is the culture of the college. I know some colleges, some universities, online and blended is a huge portion. Again, we're gaining more support for it where I am, but it was a traditional face-to-face, students live in dorm kind of campus. The problem is we're running out of space. We have built out to the river. You can't go past there. The president continues to buy pieces of property. We're building up, but the emphasis now is on graduate program development because graduate students traditionally don't need a lot of housing on campus. But there also has been more development in hybrid courses and hybrid programs. So what is the culture? You know, and again, that's going to take buy-in if the culture is not the type of program. And what are the needs to experiment with new pedagogies? You know, what are the needs? What are the resources? What's the time, et cetera. Future recommendations. Be flexible. We've learned over time that flexibility is key. Continue training procedures. Continue constant and consistent contact with all involved offices. Institutions must be organized and prepared. So institutional readiness. How ready are you? Is there infrastructure? And we've talked about that quite a bit over the last 4 or 5 years and how we need better infrastructure if we're going to continue in this graduate program development. Peer mentorship with new faculty has been really helpful. So somebody who's taught for a few years, pairing them up with a junior faculty member who wants to learn hybrid has worked really well. And anticipate delays. We had delays with some of the committee reviews. We had delays, so we got to the point where, okay, we got to get this program off and starting. We have students coming. What do we need to do to make it work? So I think delays are expected. So, and references, and I think we do questions at the end. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you.